2012 Hyundai Elantra 1.8 liter. It's got the 4-banger. Customer states that after shutdown, engine will not restart. Oh, it just started for us. We caught it once failing and we caught it not failing. So now that we're here and we're looking, it's gonna keep starting. But what it's doing is when you go to crank it, there we go. See that? It doesn't do anything. So something is going on with the starting circuitry and or computerized modules in this particular Hyundai. Starting with the easiest things first, I've already gone ahead and checked out the battery condition, charge levels, and the tightness of the battery terminals, and everything with the electrical storage system on this vehicle appears to be operating as designed. I'd like to apply some logic with this troubleshooting before we just start firing parts at this unit. So we know it does start, so the starter motor does function. We know that the battery is connected, it is fully charged, and the terminals and connections are in good condition. We know that the key works, so why, oh why, does this vehicle fail to operate? What I'd like to start with is I need to determine whether or not the key, when it's turned into its cranking position, is actually sending the power to engage the starter. That's what we need to determine. So we have to catch this thing in the act in a not starting condition. Now, look at here, look what I just saw. See how the clock went down? So when this thing starts and cranks normally, that clock will shut down. That's probably because this ignition switch shuts down ignition 2 power during cranking, which is going to be accessories, you know, windows, radio, blower motors, things of that nature. There's ignition 1 power and ignition 2 power. I believe that the key in the crank position will disable ignition 2 power, and that's what we're looking at right here. So what that tells me is that the ignition switch seems to be functioning as designed. Now clearly this is an intermittent issue, so even if we prove out that something is working, we have to keep in the back of our mind that it could still potentially be the problem. Until we have a smoking gun testing protocol that shows us exactly what's wrong, everything else is always going to be suspect, whether it's working or not. So even though this ignition switch appears to be working, and it appears to be working when the failure is present, it still could be the ignition switch. There's only so many things it could be. There's ignition switch, there's wiring, there's the fuse block, and of course there's a starter motor, and maybe there's a body control module integrated into that as well. So we're going to take a look at all of those components, and we're going to successfully diagnose and repair this Hyundai 1.8 liter Elantra. So stay tuned, because this is going to be a very good video. Opening the hood. Okay, I've got the scan tool pulled up here, and I'm looking for some ignition switch data. Well, here we go. We have ignition 1 and ignition 2. Look at that. We have on and on, so the key is on. Let's just make sure that off and off. So that's key on position 1. That's position 2. Let's try to crank it and see what it does. Okay, we're not actually cranking. I'm holding the key, but look at that. Ignition 2 power has turned off. I'm not cranking. Now I am cranking. Not cranking. So that appears that everything is functioning as it should. Our internal systems are shutting down as you go to the crank position. So I kind of don't believe that it's the ignition switch. We're getting nothing at the starter, and I do not hear the relays going off. Okay, so scan tool data suggests to me that the ignition switch component, not the lock tumbler, but the actual electrical switch that the tumbler is going to actuate, that tells me that that segment, or that those components are functioning as designed. Next up, let's go ahead. I'm going to move this thing into the shop. We're going to set it up on the rack. I want to go ahead and take a look at the starter wires and test for the proper powers and grounds at the actual starter motor. So we're here at the beginning, we're about to check out what happens at the end, and somewhere in between those two, we're going to find the fault on this particular vehicle. But you know what, before we do that, let's go consult the wiring diagrams real quick and get familiar with the system that we're going to be troubleshooting. So we have a strategy. Let's go learn what we're looking for. Alrighty, I've got all data information pulled up, and we've got the vehicle selected, 2012 Hyundai Elantra, 4-cylinder, 1.8, and we're going to be looking for electrical diagrams. It's going to be non-OE color-coded, and I would like starting and charging system right here. Didn't see smart key looking key, so that's going to be our graph. Let's zoom it in some. Here we go. So we have our starter motor assembly. It has the power wire right here. It is grounded through the engine block. That's the power wire, excuse me. And then it has this wire right here coming in to engage the solenoid in order to crank the starter motor. So this wire goes up to, looks like, the fuse relay box, and inside of that relay box we have a starter relay. So that relay is going to be a switch that's operated off of another switch in order to deliver a large amount of current using a smaller switch, which in this case would be the ignition switch. So basically the ignition switch excites the relay then closes and then sends power down to the solenoid on the starter. So let's go locate this starter relay real quick and just check that thing out. Now, we know that the fuses are good because the thing does start on occasion, unless there is corrosion in the fuses on the blades. But let's go look at the relay first and check that out, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so battery, air intake, engine, that was fuse box. Not labeled, but it is fuse box. The fuses are labeled though, this is good. So let's see, we've got a relay set here, 2 relays over here, that one, and that little guy right down there. So what I'm thinking is, here's our fuses, wiper, horn, blah, 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 start 1. There's a start 1 relay, which is gonna be that one. That's the start 1 relay. Let's go check the diagram again and make sure that start 1 is the one for the starter. And the survey says right there, start 1 relay. So that is in fact our starter circuit relay. So rather than buying a new one and putting it in and see what happens, we're just gonna swap this relay with another similar relay. Usually when I do this, I like to take the blower relays or the horn relay, just because those are systems that we can do without for diagnostic purposes. Let's see, the horn relay, that looks like it's the green one. We'll just swap it out with the blower relay. Yep, we'll do the brown one for the brown one. So I'll come in with some highly sophisticated relay extraction devices here. Or not. Please come out. Here, we'll try it this way. Grab it and wiggle. So this is the blower motor relay. That's for the climate control inside of the cabin. This one is our starter relay. So we'll pull that guy out and double check them, make sure they're the same. P230, 230, 2 4-pin. Yep, these are good. What I'm going to do is we're going to take the blower relay and put that in the starter relay section, and then we'll take what was the starter relay and put that in the blower relay section. Now we can go back inside, hit the key again, and if we cannot reproduce the failure, there's a good bet that there's an issue with the relay. If we can reproduce the failure, then this was a dead end, because we've introduced a variable, a known good part, and it's not the relay. Yep, see that? Okay. So that leaves us with starter solenoid and or wires or something else that I'm not catching right now. So I need to probably get some access to the starter. We're gonna go and check that out. I need to get this Lexus off the rack. We'll back this out for now. we'll switch places with the Hyundai. Next is coming down. And then we may continue testing. Ooh, that's not cool. That arm over there didn't let go. I saw you. There we go. Coming down. Okay, so here's the plan. We're gonna set this up on the rack, get her up in the air, and we're gonna take a look at the starter motor. We'll check the ground, check the power, and we will install some test leads to check for power at the solenoid when the key is commanded on, because something is interrupting signal here, and we need to find out what it is. Yeah, now it's working. Good. There we go. As long as it's repeatable, we're gonna find it. Alrighty, the rack is set, both sides. Moving on up, red subscribe button. No, seriously, I mean that. Please subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out, and it's free to you. Okay, that's probably high enough on the locks. Good, good, good. Let's go back down, recheck our lift points so we don't die. You never know. All right, that looks good. Okay, starter motor. Where are you? Let's see, not on the back side. How about right there? There she is. That's our starter motor. So you can see the main body of the motor here. This is the solenoid here. That's our power cable coming in. All that stuff is tight. This right here, that's the power cable between the solenoid and the motor itself. And then this connector here, this wire, this is the signal wire that comes from the ignition key. Oh, something fell out. That's the wire from the ignition key and the relay to the solenoid. What did I just drop on the ground? Piece of plastic? Aye, there's a bunch of plastic down here. I don't know. Don't know what fell. That's weird. I wonder if it was a broken piece of like the actual connector. Oh, you know what it is? It was the connector. You know, the back of the connector starting to come apart. That's what that was. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and assume that I'm getting electrical power from the battery down here to this starter assembly. So I think that's gonna be okay. I'm gonna assume we're losing connection between the key and this connector right here, and the solenoid is not engaging. Or we are getting constant all the time connection here and the solenoid is failing. So it's either this component here or something else between this connector and that ignition key. So what we can do is go ahead and connect a test lead to this, and we'll put it on a light or a meter. Then we can go into the cabin and continue to apply ignition key cycles, and as long as we see that that thing receives constant power from the key, we can then hypothesize that the starter motor has a faulty solenoid, and then we can... I have a couple of test leads here. One is a male lead, one is a female lead. What we're going to do is we're going to connect these leads to the existing components here. So I've got the blue lead going into the solenoid, and I'm going to go ahead and attach this yellow lead into this connector coming from the relay. Let's plug that guy in right there. So I've got the yellow going to the relay, the blue is going to the solenoid, and now we're going to attach those and connect a test light in between. That way we can monitor visually what's happening at the starter when the key is commanded. Okay, I've added an extension to those two leads. So the yellow and the green goes to the solenoid and to the connector. So if we were to take these guys right here and connect them together, that's going to complete the circuit, and the vehicle should start and operate normally. Okay, does that make sense? Because all we did was basically just add an extension cord into that connector over there. So let's go ahead and let this down and we're gonna go hit the key, and we're gonna observe that we have minimal change. We're looking for no change. I'm looking for the symptom to still be here. Okay, let's grab our test lead that we made. We'll just kind of hang that. Actually, you know, I should just pull that up from here because we need it up top. So we'll just pull that through. Come on up. It's very well insulated with the exception of these connectors right here. So now that we have good access to that wire, let's go inside, hit the key a couple times, and make sure that our failure is still present. See that? Got it. Okay. So now what we need to do is connect the test light to these connectors right here. And what's going to happen is when you hit the key, it's going to energize this circuit, and that should power up this test light. It's a little rough looking, but it's a test light. It will do. So basically what we've got here is just a 12-volt light. And we have illumination, power and ground. So what we can do next is attach our load wire to the light right here and right here, and we just need to leave this in a location where we can see it and monitor it from the cabin right there. Beautiful. So going back inside, what we're going to do is hit the key. We're going to watch the test light right there in the window. Okay, it lit up while cranking. Shut it back down. What I'm looking for here is for that light to illuminate while I'm cranking the key and the starter does not engage. All right, so look at that there. The light is off, see that? But I'm holding the key. See that right here? So we're not getting power. There it goes. I hit the key 4 or 5 times. So we're not getting power to the solenoid when commanded by the key, and we know it's not the relay. Very interesting. Does that make sense? We've created a jumper wire between the starter solenoid and its connector. We've taken that lead and connected it to a test light. When we command the key to crank the engine, it sends power to the solenoid. What we are looking for is power going to the solenoid and then the solenoid failing to engage. What that would be telling me is that the solenoid has failed. However, since every time we do not get a crank signal from the key, that test light is not lighting up. Yep, right now we got it. I'm holding the key into crank, the light is not lighting up. That means that power is not being sent down to the starter, either from the switch or from the relay. So that tells me in all likelihood the starter itself is not the problem with this no crank condition. So what could it be? What could it be? We're gonna have to go back to the diagrams. Alrighty, well now our simple electrical diag has just become complicated. So what we've proved out so far is that it's not the relay, not the easy thing. It's not the starter, not an easy thing, and we do not believe it's an ignition switch because we saw the loss of ignition to power during the crank command. So that leaves out this entire other half of the diagram here. Now we need to go ahead and move on to the other components in the system. So next up, right after your key, we've got the smart junction block, which is the fuse box, and we have fuse 7.5 amp fuse. That's the start fuse. The start fuse feeds power to the security system right here. That's the theft alarm module, and then that runs its power through, let's see, that says ignition lock switch. Oh, here's what we're looking for. The transaxle range selector switch. So that kind of gives permission for the starter to engage. Think about that. Let's say you've got your car in reverse and the engine's off, and then you go to start it and it starts up, and then the thing starts to drive away. running the permission for the crank signal through the range selector switch is a safety mechanism designed to keep accidental or prevent accidental starts while the vehicle is in gear. So, what permits? It should want to crank in neutral, and it should also want to crank in start. Let's go back to our relay real quick. So we do have one circuit. It's the white wire going into it. And that does bust through our range selector switch right here. It's gonna be circuit 1 and circuit 2 is what gives cranking authority to that relay. So the relay, let's check the relay and make sure that relay is closing when commanded. Okie dokes. So that range selector switch, that's basically the switch that tells the rest of the vehicle what gear position that the transmission is in. As I mentioned earlier, pop this off here. If the thing is in reverse or in drive, the start circuit will be disabled and the vehicle will not crank. So we could have a situation here where this vehicle does not have permission to crank for some reason. So what we're going to do to continue testing is I'm going to gain access to that switch, which should be right under this air box. We're going to avalanche parts. We're going to get a hold of that switch, and I'm going to try to jump the pins on the white wires. There was 2 circuits coming in, or one coming in, one coming out, and that was the permission circuit that grants power to the solenoid, I'm sorry, the relay, to fire off the starter solenoid. So what we're going to do is we're going to find those pins and try to jump those pins together and then see if our problem goes away or not. Oh, there's another one way down there. I'll get it. No worries. There we go. Squeeze this thing out from behind that intake hose. There we go. Voila, there she is. That is our new suspected component in question. The range selector switch, or commonly known as the neutral safety switch. Sometimes these are located on the transmission, and then sometimes they're located on the gear shift mechanism inside of the cabin. And what I'm going to do, get a hold of this connector here and disconnect this unit. Let's take a look at our wires. So we've got there's a white wire there. It was 2 white. I think one was white and one was white and black. And we can double check that in a minute. I don't know if that's it or not. Okay, so I'm only seeing 1 white wire on this, when I thought from that graph I had seen a second white wire. So that kind of puts what I was doing with my testing like on a pretty cold immediate stop. Tell you what, let's go ahead and see if this thing is going to do any kind of cranking activity while that switch is disconnected. I've got a strong indicator that that switch is the issue, but we kind of need to prove that out. So I'm cranking the key, and I'm watching our meter up front. I'm not getting any starter actuation. I'm not getting any power to the test light. So let me reconnect this switch one more time, and we'll see if it begins to crank. I believe, like I said, simply through process of elimination, this is the faulty component in question. But I want to make sure we have the proper amount of evidence here to prove this. Cranking again. Uh-oh. Now it doesn't want to crank at all. We got nothing. Oh no, I broke it. Let's recheck all of our testing methods here. Test lights on. That's on, that's on, this is on, that's reconnected. Okay. So yeah, we should be capable of starting right now. I think I broke it. Oh yeah, we're dead in the water. I've got nothing. My key off power, or my ignition 2 power is doing what it's supposed to be doing. I broke it. Yeah, it's not working at all now. Okay, looks like I found it by default. Alrighty, I've gone ahead and ordered a replacement range selector switch. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this unit off of the transmission while I wait for the new one to arrive. So it looks like we're gonna need 10 mil, 12 mil, and I don't know what that one is, maybe a 14. Alright, so this is looking like a pretty simple installation. Just 2 bolts and then maybe the 1 center bolt for the lever right here. I'm going to try to not take this off where it attaches to the cable because that's adjustable and I'd rather not throw this out of adjustment. So we're going to take it off right here at the lever. Little clickages. Come here. So now I can pop this lever off of the shaft. This shaft runs all the way through into the transmission's valve body. So when you change your gear selector switch, it operates this shaft, and that's what tells the transmission's mechanical portion what the driver intends to do. And I intend to get this off of here without breaking it. Pry driver. Little miniature pry bar. Just need to apply the proper amount of force in the correct location. Come off of there. Seriously? There. So put that thing off to the side, and then I've got 2 10 mil fasteners. And we'll get that one with the 10 millimeter wobbly bit because I can reach. There's one, second one. There we go. And there is our switch unit. You see it's got 2 flats on that input wheel in there, and those ride on the flats on the shaft. So when you operate the lever in the vehicle, it runs the cable, runs this lever, turns the shaft. That shaft in turn turns the switching element inside of this switch and then opens and or closes circuits at the connector, giving permission for the starter solenoid as well as sending signal to the prindle in the dash to let the driver know what gear they have selected. A few moments later, and I return with a replacement neutral safety switch. My friends at O'Reilly's had this unit on the shelf. Called them up, ordered it. Here, no problem. Not sponsored, that's just where I bought it from. So what I need to do is make sure that the flats on this are clocked properly, and it appears that they are not. So I need to rotate the inside of the switch just a little bit. Okie doke, so here is our old unit. You see the direction of the flats right inside of there. They're kind of off at an angle. The new one came with the flats at a different angle, so I'm just going to go in there with a screwdriver, rotate that switch a little bit so they are lining up, and now this will drop in the same way that the old one came out, approximately. There we go. Slide that guy in, bottom of the shaft. Let's just go ahead and get that connector out of the way and plugged in. Begin plugging in now. You better fit. Oh, I'll be so unhappy if this connector is the wrong connector. Hang on a minute, it's not fitting. What is this and why? I just do not. What? That's supposed to fit. Yeah, the groove is right there. That lines up. All the tangs are lining up. Just the pins aren't. There we go. A little bit of pin wigglage action. That's in. Okay, set that down in position here. 2 bolts. Now you can see, like we talked about, those are slotted, so that does allow for some motion and adjustment on the sensor, or switch rather. So I'm going to hold it in the center. That's where we found the old one. The Prindle will tell us if it's far out of alignment. Okay, that's our shaft selector. Goes upside down. Okay, 14 mil coming in. Now I'm going to hold onto the shaft, or the lever rather. That way all this torque is not being stopped by the shaft inside of the transmission. Click. Okay, so that's in position. We're all wired up. Everybody's connected. That's plugged in. Let's go back into the cabin, hit the key, and make sure this thing does not have any failures to crank. Okay, let's see what it does. Beginning engine starting sequence now. Alright. Alright, it's working. I think I got it. One more time, just for fun. That's it, guys. It runs, it drives, it cranks, it continues to re-crank. The light tells us we're good. This operation is a success. The starting system failure to crank situation has been resolved. Fantastic. That's a diag and a repair. Okay, so now all I need to do is get this air box back together. I think I'll dump out all the leaves that are building up in there. Get rid of that nonsense, nice and clean like. Good. Put this air box back down inside of its home here and bolt it in. There's the ductwork right there that's going to slip into the box there. There we go. That's good, that's good. Couple bolts. One over here for this far corner. There we go. Okay, filter coming in, that's next. You go right there. And the airbox lid, I lost it. It's over here. Plug that into the tube. Beautiful. One more 10 mil on the clamp. Wires. These guys, I just need to disconnect them out of the circuit. Oh, that's in there pretty good. And the green lead out of the starter. Cannot reach. Pop that guy out. There we go. That's both of our leads. Test light disconnected. We'll set this stuff aside. That goes right there. And then I'm going to try to just plug in that starter wire. Not going to happen. Yeah, not going to happen here. Gotta do it from the bottom. Yeah, no. Gotta get that wire from the bottom side. I just can't reach it from up top. No matcher. Ooh, tape. So let's see, there's the connector right above that. That's the connector for the starter side. Plug this unit in right here and we're good to go. Got it. Okay, back into the cabin now that it's all been reconfigured to its stock configuration. Let's go hit that key again just to make sure we have no failures to crank. Beginning engine cranking sequence now. Good. On. Sweet, that is a success. The thing starts, runs, cranks, and definitely drives. This one is good to go. All right, folks, this was a pretty quick and easy one. I'm gonna go ahead and pack all my goodies up here and get my stuff out of the vehicle. I've got an oil change to do on this and a couple other little miscellaneous knick-knacky items, but that's not really video worthy, so I think we're gonna end it at that. So as always, I'd like to thank you guys for watching this video. Let me know what you think about this diagnosis in the comment section down below. Do not forget to tap the like button while you're down there. Stay. And most importantly, have yourselves a fantastic day. Thanks again for watching, guys. See you on the next one. In a video, in a Hyundai, in a diag, in a transmission.